8-year-old Emma Thompson woke up that Tuesday morning with butterflies dancing in her stomach. She had been counting down the days for 3 whole weeks, and today was finally the day. She would see the famous royal guards at Buckingham Palace. Her pink wheelchair sat beside her bed, decorated with colorful ribbons that her grandmother had carefully tied the night before. Red, white, and blue streamers hung from the armrests, making her chair look like it was ready for a celebration. Emma's mother, Sarah, had promised to take her to see the changing of the guard ceremony after Emma had learned about it in school. Her teacher, Mrs. Henderson, had shown the class pictures of the guards in their bright red uniforms and tall black hats. Emma had been fascinated by how they stood so still and looked so important. She had asked her mother dozens of questions about them every single day since then. Sarah watched her daughter's excitement grow as Emma carefully picked out her best dress. It was a blue one with white flowers that matched the colors of the Union Jack flag. Emma insisted on wearing her special shoes too, even though she could not walk in them. They were shiny black patent leather shoes that her aunt had given her for her birthday. Emma said they made her feel fancy and important, just like the guards would be. The morning routine took longer than usual because Emma wanted everything to be perfect. She brushed her long blonde hair until it shined and asked her mother to put it in a neat ponytail with a red ribbon. Sarah helped her daughter get dressed and made sure she was comfortable in her wheelchair. Emma had been using the wheelchair for 2 years now after a car accident had damaged her spine. At first it had been scary and sad, but Emma had learned to see it as her special way of getting around. As they prepared to leave the house, Emma's grandmother Margaret arrived with a surprise. She had bought Emma a small British flag to wave during the ceremony. Emma's eyes lit up when she saw it, and she held it carefully like it was made of gold. Margaret had also brought a thermos of hot chocolate and some cookies in case Emma got cold or hungry while they waited. The journey to Buckingham Palace took 40 minutes on the bus. Emma pressed her face against the window the whole way, watching London pass by. She saw red double-decker buses and black taxicabs and people walking quickly along the sidewalks. Everything seemed more exciting today because she was going somewhere special. Other passengers on the bus smiled at Emma when they saw her decorations and flag. Some even asked where she was going and wished her a wonderful day. When they finally arrived at Buckingham Palace, Emma could hardly believe her eyes. The building was much bigger than she had imagined, and more beautiful too. The golden gates sparkled in the morning sun, and there were already hundreds of people gathering behind the metal barriers. Emma felt a thrill of excitement run through her as she realized she was really here at the home of the Queen. Sarah pushed Emma's wheelchair through the crowd, looking for a good spot where they could see everything clearly. Many people were already 3 or 4 rows deep along the barriers, but Sarah was determined to find a place where Emma could have a perfect view. She explained to several kind tourists what they were trying to do, and most people were happy to help make space for the little girl in the wheelchair. They found a spot right at the front barrier, where Emma could see the entire street where the guards would march. Emma could hardly contain her excitement as she looked around at all the other people who had come to watch. There were families with children, tourists with cameras, and even some people who looked like they might be from other countries. Everyone seemed happy and excited, just like Emma felt. The crowd continued to grow as more people arrived. Emma listened to the different languages being spoken around her and watched as people took pictures of the palace and each other. She saw children about her age running around with their parents and wished she could run too, but she was happy to be there in her special decorated wheelchair. A police officer walked by and saw Emma sitting at the front of the crowd. He stopped and bent down to talk to her, asking if she was excited to see the guards. Emma nodded enthusiastically and showed him her flag. The officer smiled and told her that the guards were very special soldiers who protected the Queen. He said they had to be very brave and strong to do their job. Emma listened carefully to every word, hanging on to each detail about the guards she was about to see. As the morning went on, Emma's anticipation grew stronger. She practiced sitting up straight in her wheelchair because she wanted to look respectful. When the guards arrived, her mother helped her arrange the ribbons on her chair and made sure the flag was ready to wave. Emma felt proud of how she looked and how prepared she was for this special moment. The sounds of London filled the air around them. Cars drove by honking their horns, and people chatted excitedly about what they were about to see. Emma closed her eyes for a moment and listened to all the sounds mixing together. She could hear Big Ben chiming in the distance and the clip-clop of horses pulling tourist carriages. Everything seemed magical and full of possibility. That Emma had dreamed about this day so many times. In her dreams, she always imagined herself saluting the guards, just like soldiers did in the movies she watched with her father. She had practiced the salute many times at home, making sure her hand went to her forehead in just the right way. Her father had been a soldier before Emma was born, and he had taught her how to salute properly with respect and pride. The little girl felt a special connection to the military because of her father's service. She understood that being a soldier was an important job that required courage and dedication. Even though she was only 8 years old, Emma knew that the guards she was about to see had chosen to serve their country just like her father had done. This made the whole experience even more meaningful to her. As Emma waited, she thought about all the things she had learned about the royal guards. Mrs. Henderson had told the class that they had to stand perfectly still no matter what happened. around them. They could not move or speak or even smile while they were on duty. Emma wondered how they managed to be so disciplined and strong. She decided that when she grew up she wanted to be brave and dedicated just like them. The morning sun grew warmer as time passed and Emma's excitement reached its peak. She could feel that something special was about to happen. The crowd around her seemed to sense it too as people began to stand on their toes and crane their necks to look down the street. Emma gripped her flag tighter and sat up as straight as she could in her wheelchair. She was ready to meet the royal guards and show them the respect they deserved. The sound of distant drums began to echo through the streets around Buckingham Palace. Emma felt her heart start to beat faster as she heard the rhythmic drumming getting closer and closer. She had been waiting for over an hour now, and the moment she had dreamed about was finally arriving. The crowd around her began to stir with excitement as people realized the ceremony was about to begin. Sarah squeezed Emma's shoulder gently and whispered that the guards were coming. Emma gripped her small British flag so tightly that her knuckles turned white. She had practiced this moment in her mind so many times, but now that it was really happening, she felt both thrilled and nervous at the same time. The butterflies in her stomach seemed to be doing somersaults. The drumming grew louder, and Emma could now hear the sound of marching feet hitting the pavement in perfect unison. It was like listening to one giant heartbeat that belonged to all the guards together. The crowd pressed forward against the barriers as everyone tried to get the best possible view. Emma was grateful that she was sitting right at the front where nothing could block her sight. A group of mounted police officers appeared first, riding their beautiful black horses down the street. The horses stepped proudly with their heads held high and their coats gleaming in the morning sunlight. Emma had always loved horses, and these ones looked especially magnificent. The police officers sat straight and tall in their saddles, wearing their traditional uniforms with bright buttons and badges. Behind the mounted officers, Emma could see the first glimpse of red uniforms in the distance. Her excitement reached a new level as she realized she was about to see the famous royal guards up close. The red color seemed to glow against the grey London street like bright flowers in a garden. Emma had seen pictures of the guards in books and on television, but she knew that seeing them in real life would be completely different. The crowd began to cheer and clap as the guards came into full view. Emma gasped with wonder as she saw how perfectly they marched together. Every step was exactly the same, and every guard held his head at precisely the same angle. Their red tunics were so bright they almost hurt to look at, and their black boots shined like mirrors reflecting the sky above. Leading the formation was a tall guard who looked more important than the others. His uniform had extra gold decorations, and he carried himself with special dignity and pride. This was Sergeant James Mitchell, though Emma did not know his name yet. She only knew that he looked like the most important soldier she had ever seen. His face was serious and focused as he led his men down the street with perfect military precision. Emma studied Sergeant Mitchell's face as he approached. He had kind eyes, even though his expression was stern and professional. His jawline was strong and his posture was absolutely perfect. The tall black hat he wore made him look even more impressive and important. Emma could tell just by looking at him that he was someone who took his job very seriously and cared deeply about doing it well. The guards marched closer, and Emma could see more details of their magnificent uniforms. The red fabric looked like it had been painted with the finest paint, and every brass button gleamed like a tiny sun. Their white gloves were spotless, and their black boots had been polished until they reflected like dark water. Emma thought they looked like living toy soldiers that had stepped out of a fairy tale. As the guards passed directly in front of where Emma sat, she noticed how they kept their eyes fixed straight ahead. They did not look at the crowd or react to the cheering and clapping around them. This amazed Emma because she knew it must be hard to ignore so many people calling out to them. She realized this was part of their training and discipline that made them so special and respected. The formation came to a halt right in front of Emma's position. Sergeant Mitchell stood no more than 15 feet away from her wheelchair. Emma could hardly believe how close she was to one of the Queen's own guards. She could see the individual threads in his red tunic and the way his breath made small clouds in the cool morning air. He stood like a statue with his rifle held at exactly the right angle and his feet positioned perfectly. Emma's mother, Sarah, watched her daughter's face light up with pure joy and amazement. She had never seen Emma look so happy and excited about anything before. Sarah felt tears beginning to form in her eyes as she realized how much this moment meant to her little girl. She was grateful that they had made the journey to London and that Emma was experiencing something so special and memorable. The other guards in the formation stood equally still and professional. Emma looked at each one, trying to memorize their faces and uniforms. Some were older and some were younger, but they all shared the same dedication and pride in their appearance. Emma thought about how much practice and training it must have taken for them to march and stand so perfectly together. The crowd around Emma grew quieter as people began to appreciate the solemnity of the moment. Children stopped running around, and adults lowered their voices to respectful whispers. There was something about the presence of the guards that commanded respect from everyone watching. Emma felt this too, and she sat up even straighter in her wheelchair, wanting to show her own respect for these brave soldiers. Emma remembered what her father had taught her about military service and the importance of honoring those who serve their country. She thought about how the gods had chosen to dedicate their lives to protecting the Queen and the people of Britain. This made her feel proud to be British and grateful for their service and sacrifice. The morning sun climbed higher in the sky and cast long shadows from the gods across the street. Emma noticed how even their shadows stood in perfect formation, just like the gods themselves. Everything about them was precise and disciplined, from the way they breathed to the way they held their weapons. Emma had never seen such dedication and professionalism in her young life. As she sat there watching Sergeant Mitchell and his fellow guards, Emma began to feel a strong urge growing inside her. She wanted to do something to show her appreciation and respect for what they represented. The feeling grew stronger and stronger until she could barely contain it. Her small hand began to move almost without her conscious control, as if something deep inside her was guiding her actions. Emma thought about her father's military service and how proud she was of him. She thought about the stories he had told her about honor and duty and serving something bigger than yourself. She looked at Sergeant Mitchell standing so proudly in his red uniform and felt a connection to everything her father had taught her about being brave and respectful and standing up for what is right. The moment felt sacred and important in a way that Emma could not fully understand with her 8-year-old mind. She only knew that she was in the presence of something special and that she needed to respond in the right way. The guard stood before her like a symbol of everything good and noble about serving others and protecting what matters most. Emma's heart pounded as she made her decision. She would show these brave guards the respect they deserved in the way she knew how. Her father had taught her the proper way to salute, and she had practiced it many times at home. Now was the time to use what she had learned and to honor these soldiers who stood so bravely before her. The crowd seemed to fade away as Emma focused entirely on Sergeant Mitchell. She felt like they were the only two people in the world at that moment. Everything else became quiet and still as Emma prepared to make a gesture that would change both of their lives forever. Her small hand began to rise slowly toward her forehead as courage filled her young heart. Emma took a deep breath and slowly raised her small right hand toward her forehead. Her movement was careful and deliberate, just like her father had taught her when he showed her how soldiers salute. She wanted to do it perfectly to show the proper respect that these brave guards deserved. Her hand trembled slightly as she lifted it, but her determination was strong and clear. The little girl's salute was a thing of beauty in its innocence and sincerity. Her fingers were pressed together neatly and her thumb was tucked against her palm, exactly as her father had demonstrated. Emma's blue eyes remained fixed on Sergeant Mitchell's face as she held the salute steady and proud. She felt like she was connecting with something much bigger than herself, something important and meaningful. Sarah gasped softly when she saw what her daughter was doing. She had not expected Emma to salute the guards, but now that she saw it happening, she realized it was the perfect thing for Emma to do. Tears began to form in Sarah's eyes as she watched her brave little girl showing such respect and honor to the soldiers standing before them. She felt overwhelmed with pride at her daughter's instinctive understanding of what the moment required. Other people in the crowd began to notice what was happening. A woman standing behind Emma nudged her husband and pointed toward the little girl in the wheelchair. Soon more people were looking and whispering about the touching scene unfolding before them. Someone pulled out a phone and began recording, but they did it quietly and respectfully, not wanting to disturb the sacred moment taking place. Emma held her salute with unwavering determination, even though her arm was getting tired from staying in position. She had practiced saluting at home many times, but never for this long. Her muscles began to ache, but she refused to lower her hand. She knew that real soldiers had to be strong and disciplined, so she would be strong and disciplined too. Her father had always told her that doing the right thing was sometimes hard, but it was always worth it. Sergeant Mitchell continued to stare straight ahead, maintaining his professional composure as he had been trained to do throughout his 6 years of service. The rules were very clear about not breaking character during ceremonies. Guards were expected to remain motionless and expressionless no matter what happened around them. He had stood through rainstorms and heat waves, through crowds of screaming tourists and crying babies without ever moving a muscle. But something about this moment was different. Even though Sergeant Mitchell kept his eyes focused forward, he could sense the little girl's presence in his peripheral vision. He could feel the weight of her gaze and the sincerity of her gesture. Years of military training had taught him to ignore distractions, but this felt less like a distraction and more like something that demanded acknowledgement. The crowd grew quieter as more people realized what was taking place. Parents lifted their children onto their shoulders so they could see the little girl saluting the guard. Cameras stopped clicking and conversations stopped flowing as everyone became absorbed in watching this unexpected display of respect and honor. The morning air seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Emma's arm was shaking now from the effort of holding the salute, but her resolve never wavered. She thought about her father and how proud he would be to see her honoring a fellow soldier. She thought about all the stories he had told her about military service and the importance of showing respect to those who serve. Every lesson her father had taught her about courage and honor seemed to flow through her small body as she maintained her perfect salute. The ribbons on Emma's wheelchair fluttered gently in the morning breeze, adding movement and color to the otherwise still scene. The red, white, and blue decorations seemed to dance around her like tiny flags celebrating her brave gesture. Her grandmother's careful work the night before had created something beautiful that now served as the perfect backdrop for this moment of pure respect and admiration. Sergeant Mitchell found himself in an impossible situation. His training demanded that he remain perfectly still and emotionless, but his heart was being touched by something extraordinary. He had seen thousands of tourists wave and cheer and try to get his attention over the years. He had learned to tune them all out and focus on his duty. But this was different. This was not someone seeking attention or trying to be amusing. This was genuine respect from someone who understood what his uniform represented. The internal struggle within Sergeant Mitchell was intense. One part of his mind repeated all the rules and regulations he had memorized about proper conduct during ceremonies. Another part of his mind recognized that he was witnessing something special that deserved acknowledgement. He had never faced a situation quite like this in all his years of service. The protocol was clear, but the human moment was powerful. Emma's mother watched her daughter with a mixture of pride and concern. She was amazed by Emma's determination and touched by her respect for the military. But she was also worried about how long Emma could hold the salute. Sarah could see that Emma's arm was getting tired, and she wondered if she should quietly encourage her daughter to lower her hand. But something told her that this moment belonged entirely to Emma and that she should not interfere. The other guards in the formation remained perfectly still, unaware of the drama unfolding just a few feet away from them. Their training kept them focused straight ahead, and their discipline prevented them from glancing toward their sergeant or the crowd. Only Sergeant Mitchell was in a position to see Emma clearly, and only he faced the choice of whether to respond to her gesture. Time seemed to slow down as the standoff continued. Emma held her salute with the determination of someone far older than her 8 years. Sergeant Mitchell maintained his forward gaze while fighting an internal battle between duty and humanity. The crowd watched in fascination, wondering if they were witnessing something that would become a story told for years to come. Emma began to feel dizzy from the effort of holding her position, but she pushed through the discomfort. She had come too far to give up now. Her father had always taught her to finish what she started and to never quit when something was important. This was the most important thing she had ever done, and she would see it through no matter how much her arm hurt or how tired she became. The morning sun seemed to spotlight the scene, as if nature itself recognized the significance of what was happening. The golden light reflected off Sergeant Mitchell's brass buttons and made Emma's blonde hair glow like a halo around her determined face. Everything about the moment felt touched by something greater than ordinary human experience. People in the crowd began to realize they were witnessing something extraordinary. This was not just a tourist attraction or a routine ceremony. This was a moment when protocol and humanity would collide in front of dozens of witnesses. Everyone seemed to sense that whatever happened next would be remembered long after the ceremony ended and the crowds went home. Emma's salute remained rock-steady despite her physical discomfort. Her respect for Sergeant Mitchell and everything he represented gave her strength she did not know she possessed. She was no longer just a little girl in a wheelchair watching a ceremony. She had become part of something meaningful and important that connected her to the long tradition of military service and honor that her father had taught her to respect. The tension in the air was almost visible as everyone waited to see how this unprecedented situation would resolve itself. Would the guard maintain his discipline and ignore the little girl's gesture, or would something deeper and more human take precedence over rules and regulations? The answer lay in the heart of one soldier who was about to make a decision that would touch the world. Sergeant Mitchell's eyes slowly moved downward from their fixed position straight ahead. For the first time in the entire ceremony, his gaze shifted and found Emma's determined blue eyes looking back at him. In that single moment, everything changed for both of them. The rigid walls of military protocol began to crack as something far more powerful took hold of the situation. The connection between the seasoned soldier and the 8-year-old girl was immediate and electric. Sergeant Mitchell saw past the wheelchair and the ribbons and the crowd around them. He saw a young person showing genuine respect and honor in the purest way possible. Emma was not seeking attention or trying to create a spectacle. She was simply doing what her heart told her was right and proper. Emma felt her breath catch in her throat when she realized the guard was finally looking at her. His eyes were kind and warm despite his stern expression, and she could see something changing in his face. The connection she had hoped for was happening, and she felt a rush of joy mixed with nervous excitement. Her salute remained steady and strong even though her arm was burning with pain from holding the position for so long. The crowd sensed the shift in the atmosphere immediately. People stopped whispering and moving around as they realized something historic was about to happen. Parents pulled their children closer and everyone seemed to lean forward, slightly as if drawn by an invisible force toward the unfolding drama. The morning air felt charged with anticipation and possibility. Sergeant Mitchell's internal battle reached its climax in that moment of eye contact with Emma. 6 years of military training told him to look away and maintain his professional composure. But 28 years of being human told him that some moments transcend rules and regulations. Some gestures of respect and honor deserve acknowledgement regardless of protocol and procedure. The decision formed in Sergeant Mitchell's mind like the sun breaking through clouds. It was not a complicated choice once he truly saw Emma and understood what she was offering him. She was not asking for anything except a chance to show her respect for what he represented. How could he ignore such pure and honest tribute to the uniform he wore with pride? Slowly and deliberately, Sergeant Mitchell began to raise his own right hand. The movement was almost imperceptible at first, just a slight shift in his shoulder and elbow. But Emma saw it immediately, and her eyes widened with disbelief and wonder. The guard was going to return her salute. The most important person she had ever met was about to honor her gesture with one of his own. The crowd held its collective breath as they watched Sergeant Mitchell's white-gloved hand rise toward his temple. Every person standing behind the barriers understood they were witnessing something extraordinary. Phones came out to record the moment, but they were held respectfully and quietly. No one wanted to disturb what was happening with loud comments or movements. Emma's heart felt like it might burst from happiness as she watched the guard's hand continue its journey upward. Her own salute remained rock solid despite the pain shooting through her arm and shoulder. She had never felt more proud or more connected to something important in her entire young life. This was better than any birthday or Christmas morning she could remember. Sarah pressed her hand to her mouth to keep from crying out loud as she watched her daughter receive this incredible honor. She could see the joy radiating from Emma's face, and she knew this moment would stay with both of them forever. Sarah thought about Emma's father and how proud he would be to see his daughter being saluted by one of the Queen's own guards. She wished he could be there to witness this amazing scene. Sergeant Mitchell's hand reached his temple and formed a perfect military salute. His fingers were pressed together precisely and his wrist was straight and strong. The salute was executed with all the skill and precision of his years of training, but it carried something extra that no amount of practice could teach. It carried respect and recognition and acknowledgement of Emma's brave gesture. The moment their salutes met in perfect mirror image, the world seemed to stop turning. Emma and Sergeant Mitchell looked directly into each other's eyes and shared something that went beyond words or explanations. It was a moment of pure human connection that bridged the gap between a decorated soldier and a determined little girl. Age and rank and circumstance all faded away, leaving only mutual respect and understanding. Emma's smile was so bright it seemed to light up the entire street around Buckingham Palace. She had dreamed of this moment, but the reality was far better than anything her imagination had created. The guard was not just acknowledging her salute, he was honoring it with the same precision and care he would show to any fellow soldier. She felt included and respected and valued in a way that made her heart sing with happiness. The crowd erupted in quiet applause and appreciative murmurs as they witnessed the exchange. People wiped tears from their eyes and hugged their own children closer as they realized they had just seen something beautiful and meaningful. This was not just a tourist attraction or a photo opportunity. This was a moment of genuine human goodness that restored faith in the power of simple gestures and mutual respect. Sergeant Mitchell held his salute steady and strong, matching Emma's determination and commitment. He could see the joy in her eyes and feel the significance of what they were sharing. In all his years of service, he had never experienced anything quite like this. He had protected royalty and participated in state ceremonies, but nothing had touched his heart the way this little girl's gesture had done. The other guards in the formation remained unaware of what was happening just a few feet away from them. Their training kept them focused straight ahead, and their discipline prevented them from turning to look. Only Sergeant Mitchell was positioned to see Emma clearly, and only he had the opportunity to respond to her remarkable show of respect and honor. Emma's arm was screaming with pain now, but she refused to lower her salute until the guard lowered his first. She understood somehow that this was how it worked between soldiers. The junior person held their salute until the senior person released them from the gesture. Even though she was only 8 years old, Emma grasped this military courtesy instinctively and followed it perfectly. The morning sun climbed higher and cast new shadows across the scene as the salute continued. Emma's blonde hair caught the light and seemed to glow around her face like a golden frame. Sergeant Mitchell's red uniform looked more brilliant than ever, and his brass buttons sparkled like stars against the fabric. Even the ribbons on Emma's wheelchair seemed more colorful and festive as they fluttered in the gentle breeze. Time stretched and expanded as the two unlikely friends held their salutes in perfect harmony. Neither wanted to break the connection they had forged through this simple yet profound gesture. Emma felt like she was floating on air despite being seated in her wheelchair. Sergeant Mitchell felt like his heart had grown 3 sizes larger as he recognized the pure goodness radiating from the child before him. The crowd continued to watch in respectful silence, understanding that they were privileged to witness something that would be remembered and talked about for years to come. Parents pointed out the scene to their children and whispered explanations about respect and honor and the importance of recognizing goodness wherever it appears. This was a teaching moment that no classroom could provide and no textbook could describe. Finally, after what felt like both an eternity and an instant, Sergeant Mitchell began to lower his salute with the same careful precision he had used to raise it. Emma immediately followed his lead, bringing her own small hand down from her forehead with equal care and dignity. The formal exchange was complete, but the connection they had forged would last much longer than the ceremony itself. As their salutes came to an end, Emma and Sergeant Mitchell shared one final meaningful look before the guard returned his gaze to its proper forward position. The ceremony had to continue and he needed to resume his official duties, but something had changed forever in those precious moments they had shared. Emma lowered her hand to her lap and held her British flag close to her heart, feeling like she was hugging the memory of what had just happened. The crowd around them buzzed with excitement and emotion as people tried to process what they had witnessed. Many had tears in their eyes, and parents were explaining to their children about the beautiful moment that had just taken place. Several people approached Sarah to tell her how special and wonderful Emma was and how proud she should be of her daughter's respectful gesture. Emma felt like she was glowing from the inside out as the ceremony continued around her. She watched as Sergeant Mitchell and his fellow guards completed their duties with the same precision and professionalism they had shown throughout the morning. But now when she looked at him, she saw more than just a soldier in a red uniform. She saw a friend who had acknowledged her respect and returned it with equal sincerity. As the guards began to march away from their position, Emma waved her flag enthusiastically and called out a quiet thank you that only Sergeant Mitchell could hear. Though he could not turn around or wave back, she saw his shoulders straighten just a little bit more, and she knew he had heard her words of gratitude. The connection between them would continue even as the physical distance grew. Several people in the crowd had recorded the salute exchange on their phones and cameras. One tourist from America named Jennifer Williams had captured the entire moment from start to finish. As she watched the video playback on her phone, she realized she had documented something truly special. Jennifer felt compelled to share this beautiful story with the world, so she uploaded the video to her social media accounts with a caption explaining what she had witnessed. Within hours, the video began spreading across the internet like wildfire. People from around the globe were watching Emma's respectful salute and Sergeant Mitchell's heartwarming response. Comments poured in from viewers expressing how moved they were by the display of mutual respect between the little girl and the guard. The video was shared thousands of times in the first day alone. News organizations picked up the story and began reaching out to find Emma and her family. Sarah was amazed when reporters started calling her phone asking for interviews about her daughter's moment with the Royal Guard. Emma became excited when she learned that people all over the world had seen her salute and were calling her brave and respectful. She had never imagined that her simple gesture would touch so many hearts. The palace initially remained silent about the incident, as officials tried to determine how to respond to the unprecedented break in protocol. Some advisors worried about setting a precedent that might encourage others to seek similar attention from the guards. However, the overwhelming positive response from the public made it clear that this was not a typical tourist interaction but something genuinely special that deserved recognition. Sergeant Mitchell returned to his barracks after the ceremony feeling different than he had ever felt after a duty assignment. His fellow guards asked him why he seemed so thoughtful and distant, but he found it difficult to explain what had happened to him during those moments with Emma. He kept thinking about her determined little face and the pure respect she had shown for his uniform and what it represented. That evening, Sergeant Mitchell sat down and wrote a letter to Emma through the contact information that had been shared in the news reports. In the letter, he thanked her for her beautiful gesture and explained how much it had meant to him to receive such sincere respect from someone so young. He told her that her salute had reminded him why he was proud to serve and why his job was important beyond just following rules and regulations. Emma was overjoyed when she received Sergeant Mitchell's letter a few days later. Her mother read it aloud to her several times, and Emma asked to keep it in a special place in her room where she could look at it whenever she wanted to remember their amazing moment together. The letter made her feel even more connected to the guard, who had shown her such kindness and respect. Schools around the world began using Emma's story as a lesson about respect, courage, and the importance of treating others with dignity regardless of differences in age, ability, or circumstance. Teachers showed the video to their students and led discussions about what it means to honor those who serve others. Emma's simple salute became a powerful teaching tool that helped children understand values like respect and gratitude. The palace eventually released an official statement praising both Emma's demonstration of respect for military tradition and Sergeant Mitchell's appropriate response to an exceptional situation. The statement emphasized that while guards normally maintain strict protocol, the unique circumstances of Emma's gesture warranted acknowledgement. The palace commended both participants for their dignity and mutual respect. Letters and cards began arriving at Emma's home from people around the world who had been touched by her story. Children from other countries sent drawings and photos of themselves saluting in honor of Emma's example. Veterans and active military personnel wrote to thank her for showing such respect for their service. Emma was amazed that her moment at Buckingham Palace had connected her to so many wonderful people she had never met. Emma returned to school as a local hero with her classmates and teachers treating her like a celebrity. Mrs. Henderson used Emma's experience as the centerpiece of a unit about respect and citizenship. Emma enjoyed sharing her story with the class, but she remained humble about what had happened. She insisted that she had only done what felt right and that Sergeant Mitchell was the real hero for being brave enough to break the rules to acknowledge her gesture. The video of Emma's salute became one of the most viewed heartwarming clips of the year, accumulating millions of views across different platforms. News programs featured the story as an example of human goodness in a world that often seemed filled with negativity and conflict. Emma's moment of respect became a symbol of hope and connection that people could share and celebrate together. Months later, Emma and her family were invited to attend a special ceremony at Buckingham Palace, where she was formally recognized for her demonstration of respect and military courtesy. She wore her best dress and sat proudly in her decorated wheelchair, as officials praised her for inspiring others through her simple act of recognition and honor. During the ceremony, Emma was reunited with Sergeant Mitchell, who was also being honored for his compassionate response to her salute. They posed for official photographs together and shared another brief moment of connection that reminded them both of how their lives had intersected in such a meaningful way. Emma gave him a drawing she had made of their salute exchange, and he promised to treasure it always. The impact of Emma's story continued to ripple outward long after the initial moment had passed. Her example inspired other children to show respect for military personnel and public servants in their own communities. Parents used her story to teach their children about the importance of acknowledging and honoring those who serve others selflessly. Emma grew up knowing that she had participated in something truly special that had touched hearts around the world. She never forgot the feeling of connection she had shared with Sergeant Mitchell, or the way their mutual respect had created a moment of beauty that transcended all the barriers that might have separated them. Her simple salute had become proof that small gestures of respect and kindness can create powerful waves of goodness that spread far beyond their original moment and touch countless lives in ways we may never fully understand.